This meeting, if you will, to order. I want to welcome all of our friends and guests from the State Department of Transportation. I'm just going to turn it right over to you, and if you want to introduce your team first, and then we'll get into the CTP.
Perfect. Good morning. My name is Joe McAndrew. I serve as the Assistant Secretary of Transportation at the Maryland Department of Transportation. On behalf of Secretary Paul Wiedefeld, we want to thank you for inviting us to provide the overview of our 6-year draft capital transportation or consolidated transportation program, which covers the years fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 2030. I'm here today. We'll have a few more late stragglers. They were visiting the SHA shops this morning and doing a quick town hall. But I'm here today with Motor Vehicle Administrator Christy Nizer, State Highway Administration Administrator Will Pines, District Engineer.
Perfect time. Perfect time.
Well, we got a seat for you right here.
Parking was a little tougher.
Maryland Transit Administration Local Transit Support Director Travis Johnston, Maryland Aviation Administration Chief Engineer Paul Shank, and then also joining me from the Secretary's Office is Government Affairs Deputy Director Nora Karasensi and Senior Director of Public Affairs Annalise Van Song. So we want to thank you for taking time to meet with us at MACO over the summer. We always appreciate the opportunity to preview the challenges and the opportunities that MDOT is facing, as well as connect and understand how we can better partner together to develop solutions for your challenges and the state's challenges. At MACO, we were asked to evaluate potential congestion relief measures on US 219 through Oakland. The State Highway Administration, will say a bit more on it, is reviewing the corridor, including the recent impact of the 4th Street Bridge closure, and we'll share results with the Commission as soon as the review is complete. So moving on, I'll go ahead and keep my remarks pretty brief because these folks have most of the good details for you, but I'm going to focus on the department's finances and the headwinds that we're facing, since it drives a lot of our investment levels and our opportunities for operating assistance. So then I'll go ahead and turn to my colleagues here. But as you may recall, last year when the Secretary sat here, we were facing a $3.3 billion deficit on our capital transportation program. We took pretty drastic measures to close that deficit before we submitted it to the General Assembly in January. Thank you to the Governor's one-time funding from the state's rainy day fund, an estimated $1.8 billion over 6 years that was provided by the General Assembly. During the session, MDOT was able to reduce the level of reductions needed to balance our budget, both on the operating. We were able to bring back a few capital projects as well. I think for local interests, those funds were able to maintain commitments to local governments through restoring the highway user revenue program and local operating transit grant programs, and we will continue that and fund that in this year's draft capital transportation program. Turning now to this year's program a bit more, the department unfortunately continues to face significant budgetary challenges. The headwinds that we had last year remain this year. We have slow economic growth as a state. We still face rising labor costs and material costs, and our revenues are coming in lower than projected. For example, our motor vehicle tax revenues, which is the primary largest funder for our state's transportation trust fund, have come in lower than projected by roughly $350 million over the 6-year period. And at the same time, our operating costs have gone up by $300 million over that 6-year period. Both are drags on the capital side of the house. As a result of these financial pressures, the department is making strategic investments with our limited resources to further enhance safety on our system and maintain operations. But we ultimately needed to reduce our capital line by about $1.3 billion in the draft that was released. And we currently have an $18.9 billion draft CTP that we released in September. We continue to make tough decisions to live within our means, but we can still continue to do good work. We are committed to supporting our local partners through those grants that I discussed, as well as partnering on federal grants to support and accelerate the pace of delivery when and where possible. number one priority for the department is and will be safety. Safety is important across the board. Just this last summer, the Secretary signed an updated department-wide Complete Streets policy. We are passionate about saving lives, and our new Complete Streets policy prioritizes safety with features to support all of our residents, young and old, making sure that they can get to their destinations. The State Highway Administration is already moving through the planning and design and construction phases to transform 5 corridors in Maryland into complete streets. We've also partnered with a group called Smart Growth America, a national organization hosting Complete Streets Leadership Academies in 3 jurisdictions aimed at deploying cost-effective, quick-build safety pilot projects. For a fraction of the dollar, we can get out there and meaningfully improve the conditions of our roadways with an eye towards safety quickly. These projects are targeting areas with high history of traffic fatalities and crashes. And then again, as I said, we continue to partner with the local governments. We were happy to support the Safe Streets for All grant applications the county put in, and congratulate you all for receiving it. We are able to continue to make some targeted strategic investments that are going to help support our communities and continue to make our economy thrive and grow. Some of those include pursuing new federally funded opportunities for resiliency and carbon reduction projects, funding of the Howard Street Tunnel project at the Port of Baltimore, which is really important not just for growth at the port, but also supporting the freight industry sector across the state and the jobs that are connected to that. We've also supported our partners at Amtrak with pennies on that dollar. We've been able to secure $7 billion to rehab and modernize the Northeast Corridor with the Federal Surface Transportation Authorization. And we are working with our federal partners to relocate the FBI headquarters to Maryland, and that requires some infrastructure investments. So that's what we are able to do. Again, the headwinds are not dissipating between draft and final, we believe, but we are continuing to prioritize, and we look forward to hearing what we can do together. But with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Administrator Pines with the State Highway Administration to begin local updates from the notes. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Assistant Secretary. I'm Will Pine, State Highway Administrator, and thanks for welcoming us out here in this beautiful county. I want to also take a moment to introduce SHA's District Engineer for District 6, Linda Puffenberger, and thank her for the work that she and her team do every day out here to help meet your constituents' needs and resolve the local needs of the county. It was also a pleasure meeting with you at Mako over the last summer, and we look forward to continuing the partnership and to help work to resolve local issues as much as we can to support the county. At SHA, we understand the fiscal challenges that Maryland's facing. However, I want to assure you of 2 things. First, here we will continue to do big things moving forward with multimodal projects that improve safety, accessibility, mobility, and equity. And second, safety will always be our top priority. This means building and maintaining a system that supports pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and all users, including our highway workers. SHA has been a proud partner with our MDOT team members on the new Complete Streets policy, and we're putting it into action with the Complete Streets Leadership Academy. One of my first asks when I came on the job last year was to enhance our crosswalks statewide. This fiscal year, 2024, we were able to upgrade 1,009 crosswalks across the state at 462 intersections. In Garrett County, we upgraded 29 crosswalks at 11 intersections. And we talked about some of the needs there for the county at Mako. Last year, I also talked about my goal to modernize and improve the efficiency of State Highway. And over the past year, we began to refresh our access permitting process to streamline and improve review timelines to support economic development throughout Maryland. This includes closely tracking permits from the traffic impact study to plan review all the way through to the final permit, and updating procedures and timelines that are public facing to provide clear transparency. SHA, we both improved our review and issuance timelines while in the face of receiving more permit requests statewide. So we were faster, even though we did more. We'll continue to explore ways we can work more efficiently to best support our local and developer partners. And now I'd like to highlight a few local SHA projects and thank the county for its support and partnership on these. In June, we completed the $4.1 million resurfacing of US 219 business from US 40 alternate to the Pennsylvania line. For this job, we use a cost-effective cold-in-place process that recycles existing asphalt. We're now working on the $6.2 million resurfacing of Maryland 495 between Durst Road and US 40 alternate in Grantsville. We expect to finish that one up this fall. Construction continues on the $7.7 million replacement of the Maryland 42 bridge over Buffalo Run near Friendsville. That project is expected to complete next summer. And as you saw in the CTP, the US 219 bridge replacement over the Yuccocaney River was identified for potential deferral due to fiscal constraints. SHA will continue to look for ways to identify funding to retain this project within our capital program. We can answer questions about what that means, but in short, we're working to try to get that done. We continue to work with PennDOT on US 219 realignment from Old Salisbury Road to the state line. This 1 mile stretch is Maryland's piece of the bi-state US 219 corridor project. Planning design of the Maryland segment of the corridor project are still underway, with NEPA expected to be completed in the spring of 2025. We're supporting PennDOT efforts to plan public meetings for the project. And finally, I'm pleased to announce that the county will receive a $130,000 from the Recreational Trails Program to build a 1.4 mile mountain bike trail at Fox Run Recreation Area. Again, while we must live within our budget, we're still doing big things to advance important projects and programs around the state and for the county. With that, I want to thank you for your time, and I'll turn it over to my colleague Travis Johnson from the MTA to discuss their happenings.
Thank you, Will, and good morning, everyone. I'm Travis Johnson, Local Transit Support Director at the Maryland Transit Administration. I appreciate the opportunity to share some brief remarks about local transit here in Garrett County. As you know, locally operated transit systems are critical partners in providing transit throughout the state. Overall, we invest in transit in Garrett County by providing more than $1 million in operating and capital grants to support local transit operations. In FY25, these grants provide funding for continued preventative maintenance, as well as 1 new small bus and 2 new minivans. Thank you. I will now turn it over to Administrator Nizer from MVA.
Thank you, Travis, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. Obviously, customer service is everything we do at MVA, but we've really been dedicated over the last few years to this premier customer service idea. And I think it's shown in the fact that our overall customer satisfaction rating is over 99%, so customers are really responding to it, which also makes our employees feel good about what they do every day. By looking at efficiency as well as accessibility, we saw an increase in more than 6.7% transactions last fiscal year, but the wait time statewide average was 5 minutes. And I know you might be used to that around here, whether it's at the Oakland office or Cumberland, but not every jurisdiction is always used to that outstanding service. Speaking of Oakland, I know it's a great, the part-time office is a great convenience for your customers. We are actively working on providing some additional services there, including driving tests. We don't yet have that paperwork finalized, but we're actively working, and the Secretary's working to make that happen. So I'll certainly let you all know as soon as we get that.
That would be a major improvement.
I've heard loud and clear last year, and I've been working, and I was hoping to have something by now, but with the change of ownership, it just slowed things down a little bit. It's a leased facility, so there's a few additional hurdles we have to get through, but we will be there soon. We also really tried to do more outreach efforts in the community in a different way than we have in the past, and so we've provided some alternate testing at the backbone facility for young folks. We also continue to be developed out, or committed, I should say, to our zero fatality goal, as the Assistant Secretary stated. We know that you lost 5 lives last year in Garrett County, and that's 5 too many. So far this year, there were 2 lives lost again, 2 too many. So together, you know, continuing to work to find creative solutions. Governor Moore did announce some highway safety funding, which is great, 19,000 to help Sheriff's Office as well as the Liquor Board to be able to combat impaired driving. So that's an important partnership there. I also really commend you for your development of a local strategic highway safety plan. Those are fundamental, not only to leveraging some additional federal dollars, but also just bringing the partners together and having those critical conversations. It does make a difference. Again, I always like to thank our employees because whether it's on the safety side or whether it's customer service, they really do an outstanding job every day and continue to move us forward as an organization and as a state. So thank you for your time, and I'll turn it over to Paul to talk about the aviation administration.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Maryland aviation system propels economic activity and global connectivity for the state of Maryland. As the busiest airport in the state for passenger cargo traffic, BWI, Thurgood Marshall Airport, is a key driver of the economic activity and global connectivity. The airport produces an annual economic impact of $11.3 billion while generating, supporting, and sustaining more than 107,000 jobs throughout the region. In addition, our 33 public use airports across the state are economic engines that contribute to job creation, business development, and worldwide access. A new MAA economic study indicates that these airports produce $1.4 billion in total economic activity while creating and sustaining 10,225 jobs across the state. The MAA continues to support these airports that serve communities across the state. For the statewide aviation grants program that provides important support, MAA intends to administer $3.5 million in funding during fiscal year 2025 for the regional airports across Maryland. This includes $41,000 in funding for Garrett County Airport to support rehabilitation of the terminal apron pavement. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to our Citizen Secretary, Mr. McKay.
Thank you for having us. Glad to answer any questions.
Sure. Before we get into any questions, I do want to recognize a few guests in the audience. We are grateful that Senator Mike McKay was able to join us this morning. The mayor of the great town of Oakland, Andrew Sauter, is with us this morning, and Councilman Jay Moyer from Oakland is with us as well. So I want to thank them for coming in. Thank you all, and you might have mentioned this in the beginning. If you did, I didn't hear it, but the secretary is absent for a very good reason this morning. I want everyone to know he didn't just blow us off. He's being inducted, I think, into the Hall of Fame at Towson or something to that effect, as we talked yesterday. So good reason not to be here. So congratulations to him as well. But want to thank you all for coming and for our relationship. We do have very open communication, which we appreciate. I want to thank you for all your work on 219. It's a significant project here, probably the biggest project since 68 was put in. So I want to thank you for your continued work on that. Keeping that in the pipeline, working with Pennsylvania and making that come to fruition. I want to thank you on your work for continuing to try to move forward with enhancing services at the Oakland MVA. I think people don't realize how far it is from southern Garrett County to Cumberland. You're talking an hour drive, and for kids trying to get their driver's license that may not have transportation to start with, that's a barrier that's almost unpassable. So that is a significant improvement for us when we can pull that off. Want to just reiterate the need for the safety improvements on 219 around Deep Creek, those crosswalks that we talked about. I appreciate you guys continuing to work on that. Jim Delegate Heimball is not able to be with us this morning. He had an appointment. If this goes long enough, he is going to try to stop in, but I appreciate the brevity of your presentation, especially since we've met. But for the audience members that are here, well, I'll open it up first to the commissioners. Are there any comments or questions for the group?
Just reiterate what Paul said. We appreciate everything that you're trying to help us with, and the communication that we have, we appreciate that. Thank you all.
Ditto. Okay. And before we go to questions and comments from the audience, I do want to introduce Sierra Wigfield from our house, our department. And Sierra, I think you have some comments you'd like to make.
Should I come forward?
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah, I prepared a little something. So anyway, good morning, Secretary Andrews and community leaders. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to share a few key updates. Last week, I had the privilege of visiting the U.S. Department of Transportation headquarters in D.C. for Garrett County, to represent Garrett County, the town of Kitzmiller, and the town of Grantsville. We're part of the Thriving Communities 2023 program. It's an initiative that recognizes challenges in rural communities and in both infrastructure and developing and navigating the complexity of federal funding. So over the next 2 years, we will be focusing on building capacity and to access more resources. And this is a task I'm really eager to get excited on, eager to undertake with your support. And we're also proud to announce that Garrett County adopted its roadway safety plan in September. So we're grateful that the Maryland Highway Safety Office funding made that possible. And with that plan, we were successful in our application for the Safe Streets for All grant. So for the project Garrett Pathways to Safety, so we have some demonstration projects and some planning projects with that. And so we expect to see some tangible progress on this about this time next year. So have agreements to work through. And I would like to also thank MDOT for supporting us in the next phase of developing Fork Run Recreation Area. It's a county-owned recreation area. Last year we opened up an easy bike path and hiking path. It was about a half mile. So this intermediate trail is a little longer and would provide some, in between the difficult courses, there's some other routes that are 8 miles long. And so have something in between our half mile and the longer courses that we have. So looking forward to working with the Rec Trails program to develop that. And then on the outreach front, I'm pleased to introduce some public engagement that we're starting today with Garrett County's Pathways and Connections initiative. So people would go to garrettkountymd.gov/pathways. It has engagement for 2 really exciting projects. Our Maryland 135 pedestrian, bicycle, and pathway concept design. Such a long title. Next time I'm going to make them a little shorter. Anyway, this aims to develop safe shared use paths to parks and neighborhoods from Oakland, Mountain Lake Park to Loch Lynn. And also our Oakland to Harrington Manor Trail feasibility study, which aims to develop some connection to the state park, which would also connect into Swallow Falls State Park. So we're really excited to take a look at that and engage our residents and potential trail users. And so we explore everybody to explore that story map, provide some public feedback. I'll be doing lots of public outreach, so I hope people can join us for those opportunities. Because input is essential to shape the future of these projects and help us identify the amenities and the type of trail that is best suited for our community's needs. So looking forward, we hope to continue leveraging these plans to pursue more funding and for active transportation projects and to further enhance connectivity across Garrett County. And thanks again for your partnership and these investments and the investments in our community. I look forward to working with you all as we make these visions into reality. Yeah, well, thank you. If you can
Thank you.
take some questions. You're welcome.
All right. Yes, sir.
Just respond to one thing. commend the group for the Thriving Communities work in any way that we can partner. We've got our own team at the Secretary's office on the federal grant side, who has a great team as well, and I think, how we can work in partnership there is important. But also, we've been working together already, but for everybody else's awareness, we're updating the state's trail plan for the first time since 2009. There's been a lot of progress that's been made since then, and it's time that we update it. I think doing that in partnership and collaboration with the counties and building off the good work that you guys are doing is going to be really important, because we need to plan and we need to execute, and that's the aim here.
Thank you.
That's a plan that we launched just recently, and we'll be done within a year.
All right, great.
I did want to comment too, just one other piece on the crosswalks that we talked about at Mako.
Yes.
There was a question about the locations and whether or not there would be one closer to the bridge. I did confirm with Linda that they are working on some initiatives. I don't know, Linda, if you want to just get a little more specificity on that, the two spots that they requested.
It's pretty much as we had discussed before, starting up at the Deep Creek Lake Bridge, a little further south, in the Traders Landing area, and then extending down to Glendale. There's already an existing crossing at those, but, kind of, there is a 3-lane section at Glendale, so it just kind of continues that path up to, just north of Traders Landing, kind of redistribute the space so that it's a little more forgiving, better balances between vehicular traffic and bike.
We had talked at one point about bump outs, especially at Uno's. Is that still in the plans? And if so, what's the time? We were led to believe initially that was like a quick turnaround, and that was 2 years ago. I know government's slow, but just curious if that's still, because right now the business owners are putting cones out.
State highway.
Or state highway, all right. And I think that has helped with safety, but certainly not a long-term solution. So just curious where we are with that.
So what we're looking at is actually a median refuge island for pedestrians in there, so they don't have to make the full 4 lanes with crossing at once. So instead of bump outs at the edge, there'd be an island in the middle.
And I do remember that conversation now that you bring that up. And that's part of that comprehensive span.
So on the timeline with it, that's a little bit bigger project
Yes,
probably.
yes.
But we're working on, I think it's Highway Safety Improvement Program, so we'll be able to get funding for it.
Right, and I had gotten back in touch with Commissioner Savage about that. We initially thought we were moving forward with state funds, but are now pursuing federal funds. That was part of the delay, was getting the federal government to say, yep, that's a great job, we want to be part of that.
Good luck. Appreciate your work on that. Locally, I mean, outside of the interstate, that's one of our areas that see a lot of accidents. Thankfully, mostly minor, but still.
To get the federal funds, it'll take us some time to go through the process, but we're working on it.
Great. Any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, sir. Mr. Moe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Moe. I'm advocate for the US 219 project in Pennsylvania. I noticed that in your presentation, there's no estimate for the construction and utilities costs for that project. It's a huge project at 1.3 miles approximately. Could we get that, and how much remaining funds from the Appalachian Government Highway System are going to be applied for that project remain now? And Mr. Secretary, could you ask the Federal Highway Administration to communicate to you the amount of funds you will incur for the Appalachian Government Highway System from the current CR?
I'm gonna let Will do the primary lifting on this one here.
Yeah, so in short, we don't have the full funding for the program for construction. That's why you don't see it in the CPP, but we are actively working with PennDOT to stay on pace with them to position the project so that it will be ready and in position. As far as whether or not we have enough Appalachia funding, we do not have it at this point. Could future authorizations help with that, possibly, but it's not there right now.
Is there any consideration within the department, Mr. Secretary, of applying for a rural surface transportation grant? You know, as PennDOT is currently.
We can certainly look into that. I think, there's always grants that oftentimes the challenge is, does the grant application match up with the opportunity? And on the other side, do we have the match to be able to do it? That's one of our challenges right now. But we can certainly, look into it.
As Assistant Secretary was saying there, our challenge is really often not the federal funding. It's really more the state dollars that are required for the match. Most of the grant programs still bring the match requirement. So it's unlocking additional federal funding isn't really solving our core challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Donna Alvarez. I've been here all the time. I grew up here, actually. As a part of it, this has always been my wish and my desire. We talk about safety islands for pedestrians. I would love to see some kind of a county initiative to get the speed of vehicles under control, because the speed limit is not a suggestion, it's a limit. And you cannot, if you have a survival rate of a pedestrian motor vehicle collision at 20 miles an hour, your survival rate is probably 80, 90%. Go to 40, 45, your survival rate is less than 30%. I'm telling you, I get my hair cut downtown, and I sit there and I watch people go by that barber shop 40, 50 miles an hour. I'm at Naylor's last night. I don't get it. Each individual should have the responsibility to get behind the wheel and say, I'm driving a loaded gun, but they don't. I know that there are systems available that are radar systems that are, very sophisticated. They require some money at first, but then not a lot of money to keep them going, and they are enforceable. So you have photos, you have radar, you have tickets by mail. So the officer doesn't have to go. That's a pain in the butt for that officer. You gotta go, you gotta stop, you gotta get the ticket, you gotta go to court, it's ridiculous. I mean, we've made it impossible. And then you get these huge SUVs flying through the county, drive Harrington Manor Road. My niece lives out there, you know what I mean? Come on, guys. I mean, we have got to beg the state, somebody has got to help to enforce this. And it doesn't mean you have to triple your police force. They've done it in Florida. I've gone through this before, if you've been here long enough to hear me. And I'm begging, because, you hit one little kid, you kill one, it's just not worth it. You have farmers getting run over. I mean, who are we? What is this? And the desire is not to build faster, better, faster roads. What, Sierra County, where are you going? I just would like to see some effort made, because it's heartbreaking. And then everybody's driving and go, I don't know how this could happen. How did it just happen? I don't know, Leadfoot. You know what I mean? Just an awareness. And I get the MDOT stuff about, safety and here's what we need to do, and as citizens, this is what, but I read it. I don't know,
So if we totally agree. And I think, for us, and the secretary who was sitting here, he'd reiterate what we have previously said. It's a passion for us because it's a must, right? Priority number one, more than 600 Marylanders were killed on our roads last year.
Yep.
That's 600 too many. And so the Complete Streets policy goes into effect in January, and each of our mobile agencies is going to be working every plan going forward, designing for all users of the facility, which is critical. We then have other things within our control that we're looking at that we can do. But we also need some help from the General Assembly as well. And we are optimistic that this next year will be supportive, with good policy, looking at reducing speed where we can, easing the burden that's written into code, on that front, but then also, we took a big step forward, and I want to commend this team here because Will and Chrissy really led it with the Lieutenant Governor on work zone safety. Early indications is that was a first step and not the last step where we're heading. So I think that we're excited and looking forward to what we can do in partnership with the General Assembly this next year to get more tools to address many of the issues that were raised here.
And I'd be happy to follow up with Garrett County Law Enforcement. I mentioned that you got some impaired driving grant funding. There is also speed-related grant funding, and they could do some targeted enforcement overtime dollars. So we'll reach out to them and see if that's something that they're capable of doing. I know overtime's sometimes difficult too because of competing resources and all those challenges, but yeah, 100% I agree. We want to be able to reduce speeds. We know that just increases likelihood of fatality or serious injuries. So we'll follow up there as well.
And Dr. Alvarez, just for your information, because you have been very passionate about this for a while, which we appreciate. The county has purchased some mobile speed acknowledgement signs that we've moved around the county.
Can I have one?
But we have,
Shade into a tree?
yeah, we've gotten them out, and the sheriff's department also has a few of those as well. So we're go ahead.
Yeah, it actually collects the data, speed data, all that gets shared with the sheriff's department for speed enforcement. And so we move around the county. It's been fairly successful. But to your point, they're only successful when they're there sometimes. And what we really see in some of these roads, that the speed is within range, right? It's not, so to your point, in some cases, maybe the speed needs to be reduced. And for us, that's a state function. We need to have state approval in order to lower the speed limit. So this new initiative, we'll be looking at it closely. So.
In my spare time, I look up there are integrated systems that are pretty sophisticated, and that's a little bit of cost at the front, but the data comes in, and then you can target. And I know you guys know more than I do about it, so this is like a Google search, but I would appreciate anything that we can do.
Yeah, happy if there's specific locations where there's an interest in speed studies, happy to partner to kind of talk through that. And then the general process statewide on automated speed enforcement, generally they start in counties with local bills that request for automated speed enforcement, and once the jurisdiction has that authority, then we get the speed camera requests to go on state routes, and we have a process to review those as well. I don't think Garrett County is authorized right now, but if you get there, we're happy to partner on being able to add automated speed
How do we
enforcement.
get there? How do we get there?
It's through the legislative process.
Who do I, who
I don't want to point fingers at
Are there any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'm gonna say. I'm Debbie Ward, I live in Mountain Lake Park, and like Dr. Alvarez, we've been here for 20, 30 years coming to these meetings, and I want to say this is the first time that I have felt somewhat hopeful, which is good, and to see, for one, the open bypass, proposed open bypass, has gone to number 4 on the priority list instead of number 1 or number 2. I think that's reasonable, but what I've noticed about the priority list and some of the things that Sarah said and the local people is that we are striving for smaller, more achievable, but very effective projects, and they're getting funded, and I think that is so reasonable, especially in this time where money is so tight. So to spend something like on a highway, a 55-mile-per-hour highway, is ridiculous, but to enhance safety options, just like Traders Landing, which still needs a lot of work. I actually was invited to an evening party on Tuesday night down at Traders Landing, and I didn't go because of the parking is bad, getting back on the road is bad, and that curve, I mean, in the dark, it's like you want to put flashing lights on yourself because it's a death trap, and even in the day. And obviously we've seen a lot of the people that come here, they aren't really paying attention to the traffic either. So it's, the burden's on the driver, which it should be, but we're all responsible. The other thing I want to say is, and Andrew, we never met, but we're going to meet today, is that some of the solutions are so small. For 2 years, I have been asking for the bushes at Walgreens down at the corner to be cut down or to be cut shorter or whatever. I mean, there's been all kinds of excuses, like we should wait till after Arlington, we should this, whatever. But anyway, because you could not turn right from Memorial Drive to 219 without worrying about getting hit because you couldn't see the traffic coming because of those bushes. So it was either like, how about making it no turn on right or cut the damn bushes? So believe it or not, they cut the bushes. And to me, that is such a simple solution. And, whoever did it, maybe you did it. I was going to go out and get arrested by cutting them myself, but I wasn't doing it. But it's simple things like that. So, like paying more attention to what we need, and I appreciate that. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
I just was going to what Dr. Alvarez stated earlier about the safety issue. It's becoming quite obvious that the amount of traffic growth is increasing. And these crosswalks at the different intersections, it's just reached the point where it's almost impossible for somebody to cross the street because there's not a true break in the traffic or a four-way stopping of the traffic where you have a chance to get across the street. As soon as the light changes, and if you're preparing to go across the street, if you look across the light that indicates whether it's safe to go, it's already flashing. And you don't have enough, especially when you get like me, enough time hardly to get to the intersection, and it's already, the lights have already changed, and you're at the mercy of the people getting ready to go the other way. It's hard to explain, but there needs to be, in my opinion, a study done of that corridor from the east side of Oakland clear to the north side in the 219 corridor that better regulates the flow of traffic. And I think a lot of that can be done with the recalibration and resetting of the signals at each intersection. And also, if you can get the traffic stopped for just a short period of time, it'll give people who are trying to get out especially out of some of these businesses on that corridor, an opportunity to get out on the road. Because you damn near wear your neck out going back and forth, looking at traffic coming and going, and you start to see an increase in the number of accidents along it. So it's a twofold thing. One is pedestrian danger, and also then to the motorists who frequent these businesses. So my opinion is it needs to be restudied, probably some traffic counts done, and these crosswalk lights put in a way that you have the opportunity to cross the road without having to worry about being hit. So.
Sierra.
I'd like to respond to that. So the Safe Streets for All grant that we received, that three-pronged demonstration project to figure out how to build shared paths that we can maintain in the snow, master mobility, active transportation mobility plan, and then also a study for Oakland trying to increase the throughput on the new roadways and make the neighborhood safer, so people aren't cutting through. So.
And that's we've had this discussion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of planning, but there's not a whole lot on activity as far as resolving the issues. That's where we seem to fall short. So I know it's been studied to death, and I'm sure there's enough information to justify. And I don't think we're talking about something that would be a big financial expense to end on. It's just we talk safety, and we need to move on doing these safety initiatives.
And I'll give Will a second maybe to speak a little bit more to the kind of technical side of what the Complete Streets Leadership Academy is. But we acknowledge that for us to bring down the speeds, there are things outside of our control and there are things that are in our control. Within our control is the design of the right-of-way that we own, and permanently fixing and moving concrete and building sidewalks across the entire state is gonna take a long time. So when and where we can do things faster, I think, you know, it is our intent to do things faster. And so what's great about the Complete Streets Leadership Academy is that we're learning internal and NDOT with partners in jurisdictions about how we can do quick build techniques. And this is ideas of going out and putting out delineators, flex posts, restriping, reflectivity of signs, really kind of focused in on those hot points. How can we go ahead and make sure that drivers understand that we're expecting you to slow by changing the design or the feel of the facility? And so I think that there's opportunities, and it's for relatively, you know, marginal dollars relative to the full fix. Of course, we want the full fix eventually, but we need to get out there and address the issues of the day. So that's what we're doing. We're learning, we're growing, and we're excited about taking it to more communities as well.
Yeah, I'll just add to what the Assistant Secretary said is, you know, as we implement safety improvements, we often see that there's a little bit of the mobility counter reaction to that at times. And so the quick build process really lets us do demonstration projects where we can try an implementation, where we commit that the intention is to be temporary up front, we're using temporary devices. When we talked earlier in the meeting today about the crosswalks, whether we do bump outs on the outside of the road or build a median island, like how do we do these solutions in the right way that the community will embrace it? This community probably knows better than anybody that there's those that are strongly supportive of an Oakland bypass versus not because of the tourism congestion that happens from time to time. Some of those safety solutions will potentially add to some of that. So we got to make sure as we use a quick build process, we can try things, we can see over a 6-month, 9-month period how the community reacts to those changes. We take it out and then we put more permanent infrastructure in if the solution was well embraced. Right now we have 3 demonstration projects statewide. One of those for Western Maryland is in Hagerstown. There we put some bump outs in with delineators, restriping to slow folks down, to experience what that would be like if we actually put in a curved concrete, forced traffic calming measure. And right now we had a good mixed reaction. They said that yesterday when we met on it, and there was the folks that wanted to be able to drive faster that complained on social media, and then the county themselves really liked the solution, the city of Hagerstown. So we're processing how that implementation's going. We're seeing, are there minor tweaks that we could make that would make it work well for a safety perspective while still supporting regular commuting and the things that are needed, not exacerbating traffic, dealing with signal timing, all the kinds of things that we talked about here. So that's really the heart of the Complete Streets Leadership Academy, is having a good relationship with communities by trying things rather than us having engineers behind the desk thinking that they know what works well, coming out, doing one public meeting, and then everybody doesn't like when it's actually in place. So it's going to take time to do those kind of efforts. We're working on them to identify the next round of quick builds, locations. We'll have to, maybe 219 is a corridor where we might want to try some things. We can have Linda talk to our senior safety coordinator for the state and see if there might be some spots to kind of give that a try. But it's a great process. So far, the communities where we've done it, Town of Bel Air, Howard County, Hagerstown, they've all been pretty pleased generally with the deployments.
Dr. Alvarez.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna belabor the point, but this, we're kind of like an end organ out here, we ain't on the interstate. So one of the things that I see and I'm hearing from these are people who utilize our downtown space. And what he's saying to you is, we've been asking, we've been looking for, and you say, well, we're in an academy and we're gonna plan for this, and this is a trial, so we don't have to build a brick wall, we're gonna put a bendy poster here. That's fine, but is it going to happen? Is there anything we can do to request maybe a higher level in the queue? Because Oakland has been a problem. So you're talking to people who want to use the downtown. They want to walk. They want to walk to the bank. They can't. If bypass is not an answer. That's stupid. It's just stupid. You want people in town. You want us to utilize services in the Oakland. So, you know, there's gotta be somewhere in between, but I understand what these people are saying. You know, about, you know, you say it and you talk about it and then a year goes by and you know, you see nothing. You see nothing in terms of speed enforcement in town. In town, we're not talking about 68, you know what I mean? So I think there's a little, at least for me, it's a little frustration and I love to come to these meetings and I love that you guys come here and I'm all in. I sat on the committee meetings for the sidewalk for the high school. I did it. I made every meeting I did. We're willing to do that, but we, you know, I'd like to hear, you know, or see something happen soon for our people. Anyway.
Yep. Well, we talked about at least the crosswalks that Linda is implementing, that we're working through the process of meeting outlets. We are doing some things. We have funding constraints. We have to make sure that we do the planning efforts and the work that's needed to get the federal money to be able to pay for those things, unlocking those highway safety improvement programs. I know it takes time, but it actually leads to us doing something, right? Unfortunately, the process does require that you prove out that you have the metrics, you have the crashes, the fatalities, the data is there to support that the solutions is needed. We get asked to do things routinely that it doesn't pan out that it can be supported. Traffic signals is a great one, that there's a warrants analysis process that we have to go through to decide when they get put in. And I feel like every day we do a report that says, while the community wanted a location for a signal, this one doesn't meet the warrants. And so we do have to go through the process. I know it's hard. We are implementing some locations, but we're happy to also start the process to be able to look at some of the other.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
I know you said you had the median in Deep Creek that you're working on at this point. Do you have any plans for the town of Oakland?
What we're doing with the crosswalks is I don't know how close what we have active plan, not right now.
No, so our active items in Oakland right now are at the request of Commissioner Edwards to revisit some intersection counts related to the closure of the little structure there on 4th Street. You know, traffic is rerouted around that, so we're trying to adapt. We talked with the mayor as well. What's the right thing to do in the interim? I think that's our one, you know, larger active effort.
Butts.
Thank you. I'd just like to mention a few things. The town of Axton, the speed limit through there is 25 miles an hour, probably less traffic than Oakland. Through Oakland, we're talking 35 miles an hour. I know some of the council members I've talked to in the past have tried to get the speed limit lowered through Oakland to 25 miles an hour. I think that'd be a real good idea. That's not maybe exactly the solution to what we're talking about here, but I'll get into that a little bit in a minute. But anyway, another thing, Jay had mentioned about the traffic increase in Oakland. Well, I noticed myself on 219 or 3rd Street, whatever. The traffic this past summer has increased quite a bit, but I think that's a result of the bridge on 4th Street being closed. So I really don't think that we've gotten any more population causing traffic increase. I just wanted to mention that. Another thing too, I believe firmly in what Dr. Alvarez just said. We need more traffic monitoring through not only Oakland, but through the state of Maryland as far as I'm concerned. The reason I'm saying that is I get in trouble all the time for speeding from my wife. Like when we're going, say, 68 to Morgantown, or going east, 68 to 70, Well, my comment to my wife is this, whenever she gets on my case about speeding. Would you want us to be ran over top of? Now, I challenge any of you here, when you guys, when you go back to Baltimore and Naples, I challenge you to try to drive the speed limit. It's almost impossible. So we do need more traffic enforcement. And it's dangerous out there. Not only that, we need to start to educate people how to drive a little bit better. I don't know whether the high schools still have driver's education or not, but I think that should be part of the curriculum in these high schools. And the reason I'm saying that, everything I'm saying, I have a reason, believe me. And the reason for that is, just like I said, if you try to drive the speed limit, it's impossible. Another thing is, in the last year, and I'm not lying to anybody here, this is the honest to God's truth, I have been passed twice on a double line going around a curve. And I just held my breath and said, God, please don't let anybody else be coming around the curve on the other side. I mean, another thing, you pull up the four-way stop here in Oakland or anywhere anymore, people sit there and look at each other. Nobody knows who has the right of way. So, you know, you can do all these things we're talking about here, but until we educate people how to drive again, I don't think there's going to be a lot of improvement no matter what. Thank you. One other thing, quick thing. Thank you for moving the priority of the open bypass down to 4. Keep going down that list, because we don't need it. And I'm not going to get into that today, but I do appreciate that. Thank you.
I remember when the speed limit in downtown Oakland went from 25 to 30, and I'm sure you all did too. And, you know, we all asked that it be moved back to 25, or why are they changing it? And one of the things, the explanations, and I'm seeing myself sitting down in town hall, the explanation was that the 80th percentile, and that most people went 30 or 35, so they changed it from 25 to 30. And like I've always said, which is redundant, we're rewarding them for doing the wrong thing. So, you know, enforcing the speed, or maybe bringing it back to 25, so then people would go 30 instead of 35. But enforcing the speed limit, I mean, that's what we need to do. And I'm with the four-way stop thing. I mean, what a nightmare. I mean, anytime that he talks about, you go to the library and try to turn, I mean, everybody sits there looking at each other like, is it you, and hoping like, okay, when you finally edge out, they're not gonna edge out too. So, anyway, is there a time frame for possibly the 4th Street Bridge? Because I'm sorry, I don't agree that 219, the traffic is much higher because of outside circumstances. I think it is all of us locals who knew how to take all the back ways. You can't go the back way anymore to Walmart because of 3rd Street Bridge. Is there a time frame for it being completed or passable?
Andrew, you have an answer.
The bridge is in wetlands, so the wetlands can't be disturbed based on Maryland Department of the Environment rules between October 1st and May 1st of the year. So best case scenario is that we break ground on May 1st.
But it's been closed down.
It's only been closed a couple months.
Closed in mid-June, or late June.
June, yeah. Okay, it's been a while.
So it's been 3 months, and I'm the town clerk here in Oakland, and I've been up here for a year. And I came from Morgantown, that's where I worked before, and I hated driving that interstate. I hated driving in Morgantown traffic. I came to Oakland because it's a small town and it provided me a good opportunity. But I sit at my desk and I watch tractor trailers come through, that there are signs on each end of town, you know, they're not supposed to, but I see tractor trailers come through, I see traffic backed up, and among our 400 auto parts stores that we have coming in, they are, you know, you have traffic shut down for, you know, work there. So when you have that one lane shut down, it's really a nightmare. And I don't agree, just based on my new observation, my new eyes, I don't agree with the 4th Street Bridge explanation of increased traffic. That's only been since late June. I've been here since last September, and I've watched it. I sit there every day. While most people, you know, you drive it once in a while, you go in somewhere, you're not around, you You go in the store, you go in your house, you leave town. I sit there every day, and that road is right there in front of me. And the traffic is just horrendous. We have trouble getting out of the parking lot. We all have to go right so that we can go left, because you can't make a left out of our parking lot with the traffic. So there is a large amount of traffic on 219. And I'm not saying I'm for or against the bypass. I'm not a citizen. I can't vote. I don't know. I'm just saying my observations from sitting in that chair each day.
Thank you for your comments. Any other questions or comments from anybody? All right, well, we appreciate you guys coming in. Thanks for everyone in the audience for your comments, and we'll see you next year.
We'll see you.
Or at Mako.